Ezra Klein put out an episode of his podcast that said, and I think an article came out about it too, that said the Democrats have a better option than Joe Biden for president. In it, he talks about how he thinks Biden has been a good president, a great president. He's made a ton of policy wins. He's created a great economy, which all economists expected not to happen. But that his age is an issue. That poll after poll shows his age is an issue, and that poll after poll shows that he is trailing Donald Trump. I think we both agree that age is Biden's biggest issue.
Age is his biggest issue, easily.
And the truth is, and what Ezra talks about is, like, people try to equivocate the ages of Biden and Trump. Biden is only 3 or 4 years older than Trump. Trump can also easily be categorized as an old man. But when you see them, you see and you hear the clear difference.
It's about the perception. And
exactly.
People just obviously can see that age has not been as kind to Joe Biden as it has been to Donald Trump.
Biden just is an old man. And the argument that Ezra makes is that he is failing to convince people otherwise.
Yeah.
Right. And so even if he can tell people all these things, even if he can tell people that he's not so strict on abortion as Trump and Republicans are, that he's better at governing and he tries to pass a border bill that the Republicans don't,
that he made a great economy.
It doesn't
matter.
It won't he can't convince them of this fact that his age is not a problem, because they just still see him as being old and his age as being a problem. So what Ezra suggests is, one, convince Joe Biden to stop his campaign for president. And then for the Democrats to pick a nominee for the party at the party's convention, which is a tradition that used to happen for many decades. It hasn't happened for a long time. I think the last time it was in the 60s that a candidate was chosen at the convention. He suggests going back to that, choosing one of many strong Democratic candidates and having them run against Trump as supposedly a better option than Biden. I thought it was well thought out and well articulated, so at least worth us discussing.
Yeah. I mean, he's correct at pointing at the problem, right? The problem is Joe Biden is too old.
Yeah.
That is the issue.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my concern with his whole thesis is it a problem that can be solved?
Is there an alternative?
Yeah. So he says that there is, right? That's his opening thing, right?
Yeah.
There is another option. I don't actually think there is.
He poses several other Democratic hopefuls or possibilities as people who could replace Biden, who would do better against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the polling I've seen says that all of these potential Democratic nominees do worse than Biden against Trump.
Like Gretchen Whitmer. She is a very popular governor in Michigan. She just won re-election by over 10 points at least. And it has her down to Trump 12 points. That's can't be true.
Do we believe exactly?
Right.
Do we believe
Gretchen
that?
Whitmer won Michigan by over 10 points. You're going to tell me she's going to lose to Donald Trump nationally by 10? That's not happening, guys.
So
that makes me question the polls generally.
Yeah.
It makes me question the polling. Is it even worth looking at it right now? Is it even worthwhile to even take into account? Should any analysis be done around it? I don't know if it should, to be honest. I'm not convinced that polling for this question should even be taken seriously.
I think I would agree with you more on polling about Biden versus Trump. What about polling just on the perception of Biden's age, though?
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the perception of his age is a number that we can definitely take at face value.
So the question is more whether, how much of an effect will that perception of his age have on his chances in the election?
Right.
Which we can't know exactly.
Right. We're not going to know until it happens.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
You don't think it's going to make enough of a difference to, say, have a Gavin Newsom run and do better, or a Whitmer?
Maybe a little better.
Okay.
But then that's Ezra Klein's kind of point, right? Ezra Klein is Biden can win, But do we just want him to eke it out, or do we want a Democrat to crush Trump and Trumpism?
Yes.
And so he's making the argument that Gavin Newsom could crush Trump.
Yes.
Which I don't know if Gavin. That's a whole other conversation. But
yeah, I mean that the conversation does come up of like which particular candidate. I think Newsom might not be the candidate to do so. But what about the viability generally
of an open convention idea?
Yeah.
I vehemently disagree with an open convention idea. First of all, I think it's undemocratic. Okay. I think it's undemocratic for a bunch of unelected party delegates to get into a room and then pick the person that's going to be our president. I think that's messed up. That's not democratic at all. That's why we went away from that's why we went away from the convention system, because it was undemocratic.
I want to push back against this instantly though, because there hasn't been a democratic process.
Why was that? Because no one ran.
But they didn't run because Biden was the assumed incumbent. And if he drops out of the race, this is going to be the only way to choose a candidate. And I don't think saying no one ran is an argument that it has been a democratic process.
No. I'm not saying that it has been a democratic process. I'm saying that the democratic process, your chance at it's gone. Yeah. And this is where we're at now.
But we don't have to be there.
But the only way to go around that, it seems counterintuitive. You're putting the Democratic Party into a state of chaos.
Yeah.
You're choosing to put the Democratic Party into a position where a bunch of unelected people are picking our president. That's where we're putting the Democratic Party at that point.
Yes.
You have two options. You either go with the guy who wins South Carolina by 96% or whatever, okay? Almost an irrelevant thing. The fact that Joe Biden wins the South Carolina primary is almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that that's better than having unelected people pick your president. Do you think so?
Not necessarily.
I don't know, man. I'm very against the convention style system because it's not conducive to public opinion.
I'm against the convention style versus a primary, but like you said, we missed the chance for a primary. To me, that does not mean that we should just give it to the person who was going to be chosen regardless, who was chosen in lieu of a democratic process.
Okay, can you see how by doing something like this, like a convention, an open convention, the fractions of the Democratic Party that would explode into this?
Yes, well, this is a different
point now, right?
Yes.
So, but first of all, let's close the democracy angle here.
Okay.
I think that any conversation about whether or not Joe Biden is the right candidate is a moot point now. I think bringing it up genuinely
just weakens him.
There's no reason to do it.
Okay.
It's over. It's done. We already have we already had two primaries.
Okay.
Super Tuesday is 2 weeks away. No one has even indicated that they want to. Okay.
Dean Phillips, baby.
Yeah, except for Dean Phillips.
Yeah.
Literally no one has indicated that they'd even be interested in doing such a thing. And so now we're going to you want to throw the whole Democratic Party up into array. Honestly, and then make everyone scramble to find a president in like a couple weeks after he's just raised a shit ton of money personally. In 1 month, this past month in January, Joe Biden has raised $42 million. You want to burn all that money? I think it's stupid.
Okay. I think those are fair points. Some of them. So some of them are but you just grouped a lot together. I
gish galloped you.
Yeah. So I think I don't think it weakens Biden because the inception of the point is this Ezra Klein piece, which means anyone who is going to, maybe it can be misconstrued out there, but Ezra is so clear about Biden being a good president, about him thinking, believing that Biden's mental acuity is there, that he is sharp.
Can you see if this gets picked up by more media figures and the media starts running, Biden should drop out and have an open convention over and over and over and over again. That's just going to weaken him.
Yeah, I suppose it could.
And so that's not worth it. For what? What's actually the benefit here? To gain maybe 0.5% more? What's the actual margin of difference of victory that Gretchen Whitmer opposes over Joe Biden? What is the gain here? That's what we're going to be arguing about.
When we have an electoral college that relies on the swings of a few states.
No, I know that. Yeah.
That are separated by 10,000 votes, 20,000 votes, it might be enough. I don't think the argument that the swing is going to be too little is a valid one because these few voters on the margins
Okay.
are that valuable.
But then all of this really boils down to the concern. If Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump, right? If Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Sure.
Whether or not, 98% of America could say Joe Biden's too old, but if that same poll had Joe Biden plus 10, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So that means that we're taking a lot of stock in the poll numbers of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, when we just saw the Democrats vastly overperform the 2022 midterms in amazing ways, okay?
Yeah.
Winning Senate seats, flipping state houses. We saw almost all the special elections that have been going on all go to the Democrat.
Which means if the polls are not reliable,
Yes.
then we are going off of literally nothing this risk
And
of destabilizing the party.
And we're only attacking the incumbent for nothing.
Yeah.
If we look back at the polls of 2022, they thought Dr. Oz was going to win Pennsylvania by 2, John Fetterman won by 5. They thought God damn it, who ran against Warnock? Walker or something? Not Walker. Whatever.
Yeah.
Warnock's opponent was going to win by 2. Warnock won by 1.
Yeah.
Michigan, Tudor Dixon was going to run tied with Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer won by 10.
Yeah.
So we're putting all this stock in the polls, trying to throw the whole party over the boat when we might be fine.
We just have no real reason to think to believe the polls.
Right.
Historically, the evidence is,
I have zero reason to believe the polls after what we've seen in these last two, the special elections, the midterm elections. I have no reason to believe the polls right now.
There's one other, okay, so we kind of glossed over how this could divide the party as well.
Yes.
Like if this goes to convention, then you brought up when we talked off camera about how you're going to have Palestinian protesters there making a huge fuss, and the animosity within the party is going to be super visible on display. They are not going to be able to coalesce around a candidate.
I think it's 1968 part 2.
Yeah.
In 1968 was when the Democratic Party nominated Hubert Humphrey, even though Eugene McCarthy had won the majority of primaries across the country. Eugene McCarthy was an anti-Vietnam candidate. Hubert Humphrey was the pro-Vietnam War candidate. 1968 blows up into, anti-war protests of people, holding up the Viet Cong flag. And you imagine that's exactly what's going to happen if we do an open convention style in this one coming up.
Okay.
I can already picture all the progressive and leftist movements coalescing on that city.
Can I tell another version of the story?
Yes.
And I want to hear your response to
Yes.
it. A version where they go into the convention and every politician there who wants to run puts forward their best foot, makes some inspiring speech about why they're the person to lead the party. They give props to all of the other candidates there. They give props to Biden to try to keep everything coalesced. Afterwards, the media is completely abuzz, and people are extremely excited about how they don't have to choose between the Biden-Trump rematch again. They actually get something to think about, that it feels like they're able to express a little bit more of a choice. Now, is that a story that could happen in your head?
Our stories happen at the exact same time. Because when all the people are in the convention giving those very nice speeches, all the cameras are pointed out the window looking at the people banging on the doors.
I think you're giving the media a little bit too much
It's
of a
what
bad
happened
rap.
in 68. No one watched the speeches at the convention in 68. They just watched the police club people in the head.
Okay, 68 was 60 years ago. And it'll be a crazy historic moment for the party to have gone back to a convention and to see these politicians actually competing head to head in this super charged, intense moment where this speech might determine who they choose, who is our next president. I think the cameras are very much going to be on the politicians when that is the case. And of course, they will also film the people banging on the windows. There will be clips of that circulating. That will be reported as well. But this will be an absolute revelation as far as like not a new way that things are being done, but a completely unorthodox one in today's day and age.
Yeah, but I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I am not convinced. So much of the election is done in the next few months, right?
Mm-hmm.
The next few months is where the war chest gets developed. The candidate raises a ton of money, and then they're able to spend it all right before.
Yeah.
We're going to waste all that time until the summer, 3 months before the election, and then try to sprint our way to the finish line after the other guy's been running a marathon the whole time.
Yeah.
It just seems like a bad strategy.
Yeah, that's fair. And because he is all like, even now and for the past several months, he's been laying the groundwork.
Yes.
Like, where
buying the ads.
Yeah.
He's bought hundreds of millions. He bought over $100 million in ads at a discount for the next couple months.
yes, he got the endorsement from the UAW. He's been like, the messaging about the economy has been hammering home.
Yeah, the UAW endorsement and everything. Obviously, the UAW would probably endorse the next Democratic candidate anyway.
Yes.
But the point is, like, I don't know, man.
No.
I don't think there's a good because again, all of this is operating on the assumption that Joe Biden is down.
Yes.
And I'm not convinced there has not been an election that has gone to the Republicans since 2016. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Republicans have lost every single election since 2016. I'm just honestly not worried.
Okay. No, I think I'm good leaving it there. I
Yeah.
think it was a great discussion.
That was really good.
Yeah, worthwhile to have.